It's getting colder here, and hello, it's Thursday, 17th of September, 2020. And I'm Tim Niederreiter, and I'm about to cross Washington in my little town. This street is the busiest one nearby, but it's not even that busy, especially not at 7 a.m. 2 cars go past and I cross, and that's that. This is the third day of trying to do this, and this might be a more usual time for me to record because there's fewer people around. It's early morning for this kind of town anyway. There's some people out though. I mean, I woke up 2 hours ago as usual, but it's still tough. It's still tough to do anything useful or work. Hence, going on this walk at this time, because I was a little stuck. And it's always kind of challenging to know what to do for me first thing in the morning, because I'm not really in a hurry, but I should treat myself more like I am sometimes, I think, because if I'm not hurrying, I'm also not moving a lot of the time. Well, we're almost to the park where the main event of this walk happens, in a circuit. Crossing again, and here we are. There's a dry, completely ice-free skating rink, ice rink in front of me. Still not that time of year, despite the cooling temperatures. I don't know how many people would come here anyway. I think it's just for practicing hockey. I don't see a whole lot of folks here otherwise, even in the dead of winter. And I do walk this circuit sometimes in January and February. I imagine I'll be doing it this coming year. Anyway, so I guess there's some kind of news this week or today, I should say, because I realized I'm not really prepared to be writing this current book. Yeah, I know, that's a funny thing to say about 10,000 words in. But then I got stuck. I had nowhere to go, and I'm like, okay, probably either need to reread book 1 to get a feel for the characters again. That's probably the case. And I also definitely need to take more time to think of the concept and think of what I want to do with the side characters, because the new characters, I mentioned them earlier in these recordings. The new characters that I add every book that are, replace some of the more temporary cast members of previous books, and fulfill different roles. These characters, they're important, and they have a lot of variety that possible, but I have fallbacks, like I said yesterday. So I can't allow myself to just do the same cast of side characters each time. It's one of the things about watching TV and movies and stuff like the Marvel universe, for example. And Marvel, no shade, but there are a lot of characters, and many of them are kind of interchangeable in some sense, even among the heroes in the movies, at least. So it's that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter how big your cast is if you're not getting the fundamentals right for the small guys. How are you going to get the fundamentals right for your heroes and heroines? That's not really a diss. It's just there's so many characters that you're bound to have some that can be switched in, or it doesn't really matter which one of them it is in a given situation when there's so many. But then there's also the possibility, I mean, if that's just more normal. Whereas real AAA is like, well, every character is very different when it comes down to how important they are, or how their personality works, or whatever. Yeah, I'm not the most coherent today. Yeah. Maybe that's because I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm waiting. I'm going to get that when I get home. Whew. Chilly. Hands are getting cold. Got some Mastodon, some heavy metal in my ears. And it's good to be walking, but it's also makes me a little anxious. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep doing this. And I know it's only been 3 days, but it's tough. It's like, okay, every new bit of routine or activity is a real challenge for someone who fights with depression. And that's the whole idea, is to make me stop thinking about things, not just giving me more tasks to do each day. The whole concept of a routine is that it takes away your need to decide things in a moment and gives you just an automatic do this activity. So I need to make writing, especially dictating fiction, a routine activity, and I haven't managed to do it. I've never managed to make it routine, which is a problem, but it's also maybe impossible to make writing a routine when you love it as much as I do, and when you fear it as much as I do. Whew. Well, fear might not be the right word anymore. Maybe it's more like, maybe fear would be appropriate in the biblical sense, where it's a kind of respect for the power that the task holds, or that, in the case of the biblical texts, that God holds. In those stories and in the people who believe them. But, I think there's another way to think about it, and it's not fear or even respect. It's just, and this is kind of my go-to attempting thing that I've been building for a long time. I'm trying to see writing more as joy, pure joy. Creation as an act of love and joy, and not like the dedicated, insane, obsessive, not that kind of love, not the kind that's like dangerous. The kind that's pure is what I'm going for. And even though it's hard to do, it's actually very similar, and I've thought about this a bunch too, being in a relationship with another person, a human, because you always want something from people. And I don't even mean romantic necessarily, but having friends who you want to hang out with and you want to do specific things when they're around or whatever. I mean, it applies very well to romantic stuff, I'm sure, but I want to talk to my brother every day, and he doesn't always want to talk to me, it's that kind of thing. But there's a little bit of tension sometimes. And, I think the thing about writing is it has to be more like that, not to continue to use biblical references, but I was raised Catholic, and I've learned a lot about that tradition, even though I'm no longer really a practitioner of it. That whole spiel about love is not, not possessive, love is not greedy or whatever. Well, when you want your books to make money, it's hard for your joy of writing to be pure too. Just like in how a loving relationship is not necessarily, it's not easy to stay pure about it and stay like, this is why I want this. You've got other motives, and everyone has ulterior motives about a lot of things. Almost everything they do, in fact, can probably be traced to multiple sources of motivation. It's actually really helpful for thinking about characters. And if you think about it like that, it's not just a tip for writing more words and being more consistent, getting to the page. It can make your stories better too. Is to think about not your motives, think about your characters' motives. I find one of the most effective ways to write fiction fast is to just get out of your own head. And that's kind of the core of what I do now. When I go to work, go to write, go to dictate, the key is to read the book, is to write the book as if you were not so much a writer, you're just telling a story, and you're dictating especially. And when I dictate, I do throw in a lot of random crap, but the basic story comes out very well. maybe even better than it ever has. I think that's partially because of the speed, not getting bogged down in details. Because I'm even if I put in details, it just whisks right through them, really. I don't spend much time on writing compared to what I used to do, or I used to have to get a book done. And that's actually really useful, and it's a huge paradigm shift. I'm still getting used to it. A little bit of a cough there. Just a little phlegm in the throat, as usual. When I approached a page and I would type, it would take me an hour to get 17 or 1800 words at my best. Usually more like 1200 to 1500, depending on the time, the era where I was doing it. But toward the end, it was about 1600 maybe, would be my average across sessions, or maybe the median, whatever. And that's not a bad number. In fact, because I'm a relatively quick typist, it makes it kind of more of a tough choice whether or not I should start dictating, because with the editing, dictation isn't that much faster, but that's after editing. And I still have to edit the rough draft that I create with writing, with typing. And I'm actually not positive how long that takes. That's really the primary concern there, is that it can take just as long to edit words that I didn't type, or that I typed as the words I dictated, because the dictation comes out really bad. It comes out lots of what I'm saying now, gross ums and ahs, and lots of repeated words and phrases. And all that has to go. Whew. Right, so when I dictate into this microphone later today, I won't worry about that stuff that much, because worrying about stuff is how you slow down. I talked to my counselor about that a few years ago, and she's retired now. But it was a really important lesson that when you're stressed out and when you're anxious, it's really hard to create. That's probably why so many people are having trouble these days, this year especially, in producing, words or art or whatever. Because creativity is inherently a relaxed activity, in that it requires a mind that isn't overworked, overstressed, overtaxed to get the work done. It's barely even work if you think about it that way. Sure, it takes a lot of effort, but it's functionally quite different from the kind of work a lot of people do at their jobs, where it's just task upon task. You're a waiter. You go, you do the order, you fill it, you deliver it to the table, you go back, you do the next one. When you're writing, when you're doing a task project, more like a non-task laden project, one that's more project focused. You're working toward a product, finishing a given story or a piece of art or a page of a comic or whatever. Hell, it could be anything. It could be a TV show, it could be a movie. But you're working on this thing, and when it's done, it is done. And the only thing more to do is the next one. So, yeah, writing a book might be the easiest activity, the least labor intensive, let's say, to do a task like that tells a complete story. And I know people might think that's weird, like a novel. I know I'm fast, but a novel doesn't take that many human hours to create. Even a pretty long one, even like a 400-page book. Say you read 1,000 words an hour. Okay, 400 pages is like 120,000 words, say. Let's just be generous and say that. So it's 120 hours. It's a lot, but imagine all the work that goes from multiple people into making a video game or a movie. There's tons of work that goes into these things. They're still art, but they require a ton more people, because those jobs, if performed all by the single person, would be nearly impossible. Imagine a movie where all the parts are played by the same person, and it was directed by that person, and and it was written by that person, and it's a big, it's not like a one-man show type thing, a one-woman show, you're gonna have trouble. It'll take forever. What if you want to do a movie that's as convincing? So like this character is to be, like, say you have here's an example. You got two characters, say just two, in a movie, and one of them is fat and the other's thin. Well, now you at least need a separate costume, a fat suit type thing for the fat guy, if they're going to be played by the same person. I know this is a weird hypothetical, but when you're writing fiction, I mean, I don't need to put on a fat suit. I'm pretty heavy, but you have the skinny person, and you have the fat person, and you have every person in your brain, in your head, and you have to be able to deliver them. So it takes some time to think that stuff through, and I don't generally count that time, but it does take a lot of effort as well there, even for a discovery writer like me. I mean, I imagine it'll get easier the more I do, the more I can resort to combining existing ideas. I've already done a lot of that, or I'll just have more experience doing that, so they'll be easier to do. Like, this character has this character's strengths and that character's weaknesses from a past work or from something I read or watched. Excuse me. So, my point was, though, that writing a book is actually pretty low on labor. Like, when I write a book, just as an example, I go about twice that fast. I don't know, maybe 3 times faster than just the rough draft. 120,000 words to write a rough draft. 120 hours. Well, now imagine you did 6,000 words an hour. So now it's 20 hours to do the rough draft. That's what I do. 5 or 6,000, sometimes a little more. So maybe 25 hours, say, to do the rough draft. And then it takes another, 48 or say hours to edit that rough draft. So now it's a 73-hour book. Yeah. And that's the whole book. It takes a few more hours for the proofreader to read it, for the cover designer to do their job. That's me too, by the way. See, I am the one-man show of writing for my own stuff. Except for my proofreader and sometimes my formatter. It all kind of just, that's all it is. And it goes from there. It's all me. But that's not always a good thing. I know a lot of writers, and especially traditional writers, published writers like that, swear by. There's a nice sun up. I'm looking right at it, down the street, sweet. But a lot of traditional writers will swear by their editors. They'll give them huge props, and they probably deserve it. But such is the luxury of not having to edit your own work. In the final form, anyway. Such is the luxury of having allies, having helpers that you can afford and work with you. But I'm approaching the back step. So take care of yourselves, everybody. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.